Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate in Final Fantasy podcasts. I am your beloved host, Kaleb Schweiss.
I am your begrudged host, Joseph DeGollier.
And today we are going to be discussing the new Final Fantasy 15 anime, episode Ardyn, the commercial/anime for the upcoming DLC that's also episode Ardyn. So we'll dive into that as soon as we get to it. You watched it a few minutes ago. I watched it yesterday, so I've had a little bit to kind of let it, I guess, simmer for. Not that it needed that, but. So we'll be diving into that. But before we get to any of that good stuff, where are you in Final Fantasy, or Dissidia Final Fantasy? Yeah.
Well, Schweiss, I have not touched the game. I don't have a good excuse. I really don't. Worked a lot and was just mostly lazy this week outside of my day job. So... And in all facets of my life, by the way, not just this podcast. So I'm not happy with myself, and I'm not happy with the fact that I did not play any Dissidia whatsoever. But let's say we can beat it in 3 weeks from now. That's about 7.5 hours a week. It's about an hour a day, a little over that. So I can do it.
Yeah. Is it... Yeah. So I know you get I know you get your weird seasonal funks, right? But the thing that I don't understand is you're in fucking LA, man. There's only one season there, and it's joyous summer. I can understand if you're like walk out and it's like 2 degrees like it was, like a month ago for me or like a few weeks ago for me, and like you're like, wow, I can't feel my hands. This is terrible. You go out and it's t-shirt weather in the middle of the night when you wake up and when you go to work.
You are correct about the weather. It has been raining like crazy, which is very unusual apparently around here. But I do get my funks. I say I get them a few times a year. They last a few weeks. And yeah, I'm in one of those funks right now. Usually it's based upon me figuring out, like, my daily routine, and something gets off whack, and then, like, my life goes into shambles. And it's oftentimes related to whatever day job I have at the time. At least I blame it on that. I don't know if it actually is, I guess. So, like, with FedEx, I get really pissed off when I had, like, too many weeks that were, like, too long, and I couldn't get anything done. I felt too tired to do that shit. Same with, like, Maverick. I had a good sleeping schedule, but, like, my day was earlier, and then I would go to work. And that kind of lifestyle drives me fucking nuts. And it's still driving me nuts, because that's what I have now. I have a night job. It's not night. It's not overnight, but it's afternoon, like, late afternoon into, like, midnight. And anytime I have a job like that, like, my ability to function in the morning before work, like to get things done before work, it's always shit. And I don't quite know like the way to deal with that.
Huh. Yeah, that's how I've been for a while now. I
always feel defeatist before work.
Yeah, I don't like it. I like the old ways of, like, I go to work at 9 and I wake up at 8, shower, eat breakfast, and then go to work. And then I have fun after work. But now it's like, I don't know, when I work at 6:30 at night like I do the rest of this week, I'm going to stay up late tonight, wake up around like 11 or so tomorrow, and then I'll be awake, go to work at 6:30, hate myself when I get off work, go directly to sleep, wake up, and do the same thing. So I kind of have my morning as my evening. And I used to hate it, but now I kind of like it more in some ways. But I think it's just trying to get used to that. And it takes time for sure, to really adjust yourself and like say, no, this isn't just one of those one-off days where I have a weird schedule so I can get away. I can mentally tell myself I don't need to do what I need to do. It's another day. This is the time I have. I need to do it now. And it took me a while to get into that phase, like trying to work out and stuff. Like, and now it's so weird. Now I haven't worked out the last 2 weeks, and I've worked at 10 a.m. Like, I just haven't gone to the gym. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to the gym. But I'll go tomorrow morning-ish at like 12 o'clock, noon, 1 p.m. because I have the time. So it's weird what you can force yourself to get used to, but it takes a while, though. It takes some serious time, because you're right. You wake up, and when you have X amount of, like, 3 or 4 hours until you go to work, it feels like your day is... It's like you're stuck in that just woke up mentality of just, you woke up, and now you're just laying in your bed, like, checking your shit, checking your emails, and, like, just doing nothing. But then it turns into 4 hours of you doing nothing, and then you go to work, and then you're tired when you get back, and you go to sleep.
You know what I got? I wake up at 11:30 p.m., and I usually have work at 2:30 or 3:30 p.m. I leave for work at either 3 or 2:30, depending on if I walk or if I drive. So, like, and then it takes me, like, I'm a slow getter-upper. So it takes me, like, an hour and a half to, like, fully get ready for the day. Like, because I got to cook breakfast, because I don't eat carbs. So I got to, like, cook breakfast, and I have to, like, get dressed. And just that whole process just takes, like, an hour and a half. Yeah. And then it's, like, I have, like, an hour and a half in between me getting done with that shit and then me going to work. And it's just, like, not enough time. It's not enough time to watch a movie. It's not enough time to really get any writing done because, you got to sit in front of the screen for a little while.
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know. I should be playing, like, some Dissidia right then, but I can't just haven't been able. Just not this week. This week I wasn't able to do that.
It's funny how different our mornings are. Like, there were like 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks working early that Alex woke me up at like 9:20, and I had to be there at 10 o'clock, and I was like, ugh. I'd just get up, and I would shower, and then I would just like get some bullshit cheese and nuts at Maverick, some Diet Coke, so that I don't die or want to kill somebody, and I just go. It's a terrible way to live, but I don't know, man. It does fuck with you though, and it becomes that like falling grace for me. Like, and I know you don't really drink as much caffeine as you used to, but you remember the energy drink days. Like, it's just this brutal cycle of like, oh, you can't sleep because you had the energy drink, but you had to have the energy drink because you couldn't sleep. And it's like, oh my god, it's like a vicious circle that you just have to suck it up one day and just be tired as hell all day. And then just sleep, and then you're normal again. But
dude, it's fucking terrible. And my like dread when I am tired is at like a 10.0. So I will come into work, and people will know like I'm not in a good mood, and I won't even say anything. I don't know. Like, I guess I have a really expressive face. Maybe that's it. And just people just fucking know what I'm thinking at all times. That's what I'm starting to think. But yeah, I guess it's pretty clear to people. Like, what's the matter with you? Like, I get things like that. Like, just for like thinking like one little negative thought.
Yeah, and it turns into a Craig argument. You're like, well, what's the matter with you?
I can't do that. I want to. I always want to tell people what the fuck is wrong with them, but I never do. Unless they are Caleb Craig.
Yeah, then you're very, very open about it. But we will get the Dissidias done.
We will.
NT. Well, do you have NT yet?
No, I don't even own it yet.
Okay, you can probably get it digitally.
Well, it's this Dissidia, and then it's 012, and then it's NT, so...
Yeah, and they have the full campaign of OG Dissidia in 012, apparently, but the gameplay is different, so that's why we decided to do it. I don't know if I want to replay the stuff from Dissidia. I don't know how we're going to approach that. We'll have to look and see just what 012 is.
We don't know. So.
Yeah, this is the first Dissidia I've ever played, other than when I played NT for like 40 minutes. It's it.
I played the demo to this game before, back when I was in high school or junior high, whenever that was. So where are you in this game?
I have completed, I think, like 4 or 5 of the campaigns so far. And this game, it's weird. It's kind of like those like grid battles that they had in Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory. You remember the battles where you had to like take over certain areas? You'd like have to stand on certain squares and you would get points, and you had to like have a certain amount of points. It's not quite that. It's more of just like a grid, and there are treasures and certain items hidden behind dudes, and you have to go engage with them and fight them to get the items, and then like you have to go to the final thing and basically attack it, and then you'll get a cutscene, you get a boss fight, and then you move on to the next phase. So it's kind of reminiscent of that. It's kind of not. It's really repetitive so far, and I don't dislike it, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's weirdly set up. It's almost kind of hyper arcadey when it comes to the campaign, and it's games 1 through 10 for this one, and I assume with Dudekheim it's 1 through 12. I swear to God, if it's not 12, I'm gonna shit. But I'm pretty sure I saw Vaughn on there, so I think it will be all 12 of them. But yeah, so it's just 10 campaigns, varying difficulties, and it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. It's a really simple kind of fighter, and it's not bad. The sick thing is Stolas sent his memory card, and so I'm using his memory card and my buddy from work's PSP, and his save file for Dissidia is 1,500 hours.
What?
I was like, what?
What?
And I messaged him, I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I played a lot of it back in the day. And I was like, yeah, I could see that. Jesus.
Holy fuck.
God, your Dissidia time is like my entire series time.
Well, the time on How Long to Beat is 23 hours.
I guess I'm having fun with it. I'm excited to see what the future brings. I unlocked some kind of like scenario, and it almost has I'm hoping it has an FF4 after years sort of a thing where like I have all of the campaigns and they all kind of come together as one. But so far they've all been completely separate. They'll have like intermingling with the characters and what they're doing. Like, you know, you've got like Tidus and Zack and Tidus and Cloud and like Squall or whatever, and they have their own little arc, and it kind of carries over when you play each of their campaigns. But I'm kind of hoping for more of an after years type thing where everyone kind of comes together, because you level up individual characters through their little story progression. So I'm hoping it has some sort of thing like that at the end. But I don't know yet. But yeah, we'll get it done, and we'll have some new artwork from Stolas here pretty soon. He's been
awesome
wanting to make the Dissidia one for us for years, so I'm excited to see what he comes up with once all the brainstorming is done and he starts really cracking down and getting us the new art. So some stuff to look forward to there.
So we can't like jump on it and be like, dude, I'm gonna beat it in a week.
I think I put like 7 or 8 hours into it so far this week, which is decent, but
yeah,
we'll see how long it takes me.
So yeah, none of that we're gonna beat in a week stuff, just for the sake of Stolas.
Can't actually hear you.
What the fuck? You serious right now? Can you hear me now?
There it goes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you stop the recording?
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right, well, there's a million parts where I'm going, so there's no way we're not going to, like, beat it in a week and, like, surprise Stolas.
Oh.
It's okay, I've just said that for the 3rd time on the recording.
Yeah, I was wondering, because I stopped talking, and I was like, dude, like, what are we doing here? Why are you not saying anything? And then I saw your lips move, and I was like, oh, it's fucking Mike. Maybe we could. It depends on how much you want to put into it. I'm kind of taking my time on it, but I mean the thing is we have 2 other Dissidia games after this also, so we'll be able to use the artwork for sure. Shit, he gave us a Type 0 one, and we beat that thing in like 2 weeks. That was a beautiful piece. I love the Type 0. It's like one of the best ones.
It's the best logo we've ever had.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
We had it for the least amount of time. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you, Stolas. Okay. Well, we know where we are in Dissidia. We know where we are in our lives. You got any news for us?
Yeah, I've got a couple quick pieces of news here. We've got, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody. They've removed some details and they've modified a couple things within the game. The big things, the main changes from the DS and the Wii versions of the game, the pop-up duel thing, which I don't even think you encountered in Chocobo's Dungeon, because you had to kind of go downstairs in one of the areas and you could play the pop-up duel thing. They completely removed it from the game, which I kind of thought was sort of lame, because I had fun with that little card game in Chocobo Tales, and I was like, man, I kind of wish I could play against other people. And then when I saw that it was in Chocobo's Dungeon, I was like, oh, that Everybody game will probably have the card game, so I will get to play against people. But they've taken it out completely. They said properly balancing the card game and implementing it would take a considerable amount of work, so they decided to just say fuck it, and we're going to get rid of it. They got rid of the romantic phrases, and I guess that was a element of the game that was supposed to be used to obtain cards from the pop-up duels, and you were also able to get like jobs and dungeons through doing these romantic phrases. I don't really remember these from the game.
Neither do I.
I just remembered like having things you could say to people, and that unlocked new dungeons. Like you just had to basically talk to everyone in town, and you can get the optional dungeons. So I'm not really sure what they removed, but the article says they took that out, and they sort of changed. What
about My Romantic Dream?
That's definitely still in there.
That's still in. Okay, good.
Yeah, they had a new story thing that was added to the Japan only DS remake to the game. That was like Sid's Adventure is what it was called, and it had a level reset system, which I think it's when you died, everything reset. So it was kind of similar to what we had with Last Mission. Because if you remember in Last Mission, like when you died, it would just then bring up the next girl, and then you could go through as, Riku. And then when Riku died, you could play as Pain. And of course, we just made Yuna stacked to the gills and just destroyed the game as Yuna. So we didn't have to experience that. So I guess that was a really frustrating thing in the initial version, the DS remake. So they decided to kind of tweak that a little bit, remove that. And they sort of added Sid's Adventure as more of a part of the story. So that's something that I'll get to experience that we didn't get in our version of Chocobo's Dungeon. So that'll be kind of cool. Honestly, I really wish they would have ported it to DS here. Like, I think that would have been a good game on DS.
You think?
Yeah, like...
no, it wouldn't have been as good as Chocobo Tales, but...
No, I think it's
might have been less frustrating, but...
Yeah, it's more appropriate for that. And I mean, especially because, not that I want them to make Wii games that use the fucking motion controls ever again, but, like, it didn't really need to be on the Wii, Like, you turn the Wii controller sideways and you just played it like a classic controller. So I feel like it's almost built to be on a handheld system. So it's disappointing they never ported that to us, but we'll sort of get it spiritually, at least, through Everybody when that is released later this year. Final Fantasy 15 DLC episode Ardyn got some new deets, and we've got some screenshots that have been released. The game is the story of this thing takes place 35 years before the events of Final Fantasy 15. So we get to see some Ardyn shit. We get to finally see what happened with him. This is the one DLC that I was excited to play the most. And Ardyn is one of those characters that it's kind of like a fine line when it comes to him, because he's in an area where I want to know more about him, but I don't want to know so much that it like defeats the whole mystery and the shrouding intrigue around his character. And I like to use Solo, the movie Solo, as like an example of that. Like, it's not a terrible movie, but it's not a necessary movie whatsoever. Like, the cool thing about Han Solo is that he's just awesome. He's like, he's super mysterious. He's like he's got his like womanizing ways, and he's like gruff, and he's got this past that he doesn't talk about. And like, that's what makes him cool. But when you make Solo, he's not as cool anymore, because, well, now we know exactly who he is and why he is, and it almost spoils it. So I'm worried that the episode Ardyn might do some of that as well, but I still kind of want to know more, because there's just so many questions that the game poses that it doesn't really answer. So this is the one that I was the most excited about from the beginning, from when they had their little like fucking survey of what content we didn't give you do you want most. That was the one that I was like, yeah, that's the one I would probably like the most. And thankfully, that is the one we are getting. So it's got some cool little gameplay changes. And did you watch the anime to the end, like where they have
I fast forwarded because I saw that there was like a few minutes left after the thing was over.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like,
it's like one of the shittiest trailers they've ever done. Like, it's interesting looking, but they have this weird rap song going on in the background, and you like can't hear a fucking thing. What's going on? So we got a little taste of that, but that's really it this week for news. As far as what was given to us by our wonderful listener Shinru. Kind of a lighter week, but this is sort of a big deal. I mean, the 15 expansion or DLC, the last DLC that they're going to do for this game, it's ready. It's going to be coming out, and I'm excited to play it when it does.
Well, I too am excited, although I had that kind of feeling when the anime started that we were about to talk about, that I was like, do I want to know this much about Ardyn, or do I want to keep it in the dark a little bit and make it as cool as it is? When like we went through that Final Fantasy peasant video and he was talking about like, you know, what 15, all the lore stuff when he was explaining that stuff, and it just kind of like added to the experience of 15, kind of going in after the fact and like finding out information or having people discuss things about the game that was still shrouded in mystery. That almost makes it more fun than having someone tell you exactly what it is. But yeah, I don't know. With Final Fantasy 15, it's like they could have given us like 10% more information. And it could have enhanced our experience a little bit.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, by the way, Peasant wrote the fucking anime. Because most of the things that he was talking about in that video that we watched years ago are exactly what happened. And I mean, some of it you can kind of gauge, like, oh, something happened, you know, in the past, and, you know, there's something between these two. But, like, it almost seems beat for beat, from what I remember at least. It's been years, though, so I mean, I could be forgetting all the things that weren't true. But, yeah, I don't know, I kind of want to do another 15 run, where I just go through all of it, play the DLCs when they pop up, and the story.
I'll wait till it's done, though. Till it's done.
We got to play Comrades again too. Like when he goes to the island, we got to play Comrades to completion.
No.
To get the full experience.
Fuck that shit. How far did you get in that thing since we reviewed it?
Oh, dude, I barely played it. I did a
Okay.
couple more level grinding things, and no one was on, and I was like, screw this. Like, I just don't have it in me. Like, if I hear warnings of them shutting it down, I'll go back and try to top it off. But I don't know. I'm at a point where I have to do a bunch of grinding to beat Ifrit in the game, and he just destroys me. So nowhere near
All right.
being able to take him down.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Figured it probably wouldn't last. Sorry to say.
No.
Unless you decided to, like, how far from the platinum are you? Is it just Ifrit and Bahamut?
I mean, it doesn't have a plat. It has 100% though. But
Oh, well, that's not okay. Well, then who gives a shit, right?
yeah. I still kind of want 100% all the FFs, but the plat is more important.
No,
sure.
you said to me you wanted a platinum. All
That's
the
true.
FFs.
If they don't offer a plat,
That's
I
the
don't
case.
give a shit.
Why care? Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, thanks to those photos.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Why
God.
care?
Exactly. I was nothing without the photos too. So like, did I even earn a single trophy? Now without those photos. But it's I don't know. It's just too grindy. But I think that would be a hilarious way to play the game. Like, it just comes to a grinding halt, except for not really, because it's the grindiest thing in the world. And you just play Comrades for like 20, 30 hours right before the end of Final Fantasy 15, and then you just go finish up 15.
You're going to finish up 15 with other characters.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
God. That would
man.
technically be the way to play it, though. If you're going to do all of it with the DLC and, like, the expansions and whatever, you'd have to put Comrades in there, like a 30-hour chunk of your life just to top it off. And then you do the last 40 minutes of 15.
It's like 2 hours. It's not that short. It's not 40 minutes.
I don't know, man. When I did it again, when I did the New Game Plus, I think it was 40 minutes only because I took 20 minutes to decide which photo I was going to bring into the throne room.
Oh, my God.
Of course, went with the bustiest Cindy photo. It was hilarious. I kind of want to do it and like have everybody wearing the fucking the cup noodle thing and just bring in like all the dudes dressed up in the cup noodle suit. That's the emotional like photo that I bring in to die.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Cup noodle.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Ultimate flavor experience.
Oh,
God.
Jesus.
That's a cool mechanic. I like that, the photo thing, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do. I think it's fantastic. People
Yeah.
fucking with it. It's really funny.
Yeah. Oh man, some of the Comrades photos that were taken, those would be great. Like just the photos that like it's just madness. You can't see jack shit. Or like it's one of the ones where you're like down on your ass and it's just like your arm flailing to the side, and it's somehow for some reason they took a photograph in that moment. That's remember when we used to get knocked down all the time. Those were the
We
days.
got back up again.
That's right.
And got knocked back down, I guess.
Yeah, and then we got knocked down forever.
Yeah. And we did not get back up again.
No.
Anybody else immediately get that song stuck in their head? You're welcome. Okay, well, is there any other news at all?
No, that's it. That's all we got.
Okay. Guess we'll talk about episode Ardyn Prologue. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, like I said before, this thing, and this is something I've complained about already. It starts out. It seems like it starts out near the end of something much larger. Because we get Ardyn, so it kicks off, and Ardyn is sort of one of two potential family members that is going to become the next king, and the gods are deciding which one of him. It's either him or like Kaleb or whatever, the Kaleb line, because they're like, I guess they're like cousins or some shit. I don't know. I know they're related to each other, and it's the gods have to decide which heir to the throne is going to get the throne. This is why you just don't trust. You don't bring gods in to decide like who gets the throne. This anime proves that up, and just so greatly to me. You can never trust them gods, but we get some interesting backstory to Ardyn's, sort of. It's the anime sets these two characters up. One of them is the people love. You know, he's a man of the people, and everybody loves him. And then the other one is just, and that's all it says. And we get some backstory with Ardyn a little bit. He seems to have the abilities that Lunafreya has as the Oracle. Like, he seems to be able to take the Star Scourge out of people, which to me, I was like, well, what the hell's the point of having the Oracle if Ardyn can just do that shit himself? Like, why is he doing it if we have an Oracle and that's the Oracle's job? Like, is this a part-time Oracle, and Ardyn's also another part-time employee, and they do it so they don't have to give
Oracles.
They don't have to give them benefits, you know, because they only do part-time Oracle work. Like, I don't understand that. I thought the Oracles were supposed to be different in that way, but we get to see Ardyn, and he sort of heals this this character's wife who's got the Star Scourge, and she's becoming a demon, and he heals her, and we kind of see it affect him a little bit, like it's messing him up, you know. He's sort of becoming dark, and eventually Ardyn is approached by the villagers, and they tell him, like, hey, you know, you have been chosen to be the king of the kingdom, and he kind of doesn't want it, but he's like, well, if it's the will of the gods, you know, whatever, we'll do it. And we have some interesting relationship stuff going on between Ardyn and the current Oracle at the time. They seem to have the hots for each other, sort of what it's implying, and they
or at least there's a kinship.
Yeah, there's something between the two, and they basically just go to the capital, and it turns out that Kaleb is he called him there because he knew that Ardyn was sort of becoming evil. He was like absorbing the Star Scourge, and it was affecting him, and he drew him there to slay him. And he pretty much lays waste to Ardyn. And then we get this touching sacrifice scene from the Oracle, and she kind of like stands in front of the king, the actual king that was decided upon, and takes it, and she just gets like cut down and dies in front of Ardyn. And then Ardyn like goes full berserk mode, covers the world in darkness there for a little while, and he ends up sort of like slowly climbing the throne, and he's getting like slashed and hit and like destroyed the whole way up, and he basically wants to go
kept alive somehow, like,
yeah, and he's like,
Scourge.
I'm gonna go find out what the gods actually want, you know, like who they've truly chosen. And he tries to go sit on the throne, and when he does, he's launched from the throne because the gods have chosen the other path. Which is interesting because, like, they're like, oh, he's the just one, but, like, he brought him here to kill him. So, like, is he just? I mean, is he... It's the anime, to me, I think it's kind of... I don't think it's a very good episode of the anime. Like, I think the anime so far for Final Fantasy 15 has been pretty good. But this one doesn't really advance us in any way. Like, we already knew there was some sort of family feud between Ardyn and King Regis' line, because he says that. He says, I want to kill everyone in your line in Final Fantasy 15. And we know there's something that happened. But in this, I mean, it sets it up as, okay, here's Ardyn, and here's this other guy. One of them is just. It doesn't give us any examples of him being just, or like justifying his character's motives in any way, and then the other one is kind. And Ardyn absorbs the darkness, and the whole thing with Ardyn was like he seemed like a tragic character in 15. Like it seemed like there was some sort of familial betrayal, and we still kind of get that. But at the same time, he was absorbing this thing that was making him a monster. So, like, there's not really that much of an element of fucking betrayal when it comes to that. He was becoming a beast, and he got put down for it. Like, he's no longer... This anime kind of takes away some of his tragic backstory. Like, it's an unfortunate event. It's unfortunate that he became the way he did because he was helping people, and that's what turned him that way. But, like, you can't not do something about that as the other ruler, Like I don't know. I feel like I like Ardyn less because of this anime. Almost like it seems like it's sort of taking a step down for me. I don't know. What did you think of it?
Okay, you're got a really strong stance on this thing. Maybe I just haven't absorbed it enough, and I also did not discuss this in another podcast.
Yeah.
Betrayal. Speaking of. And I gotta say, nothing in this like surprised me except for like his relationship with like another oracle. Like, I didn't really like understand what was going on there.
Yeah, I think that gave a good context into him killing Lunafreya in front of Noctis, because that happened to him. But
yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Didn't even think about that. But in front, but otherwise, it's just kind of like him, the event that, I guess, like, locked him up and, like, erased him from history. And it's just kind of the dramatic event played out in a little 8-minute short film. So I thought it was fine. It didn't really take away anything from me. I thought visually it was very cool, and it also didn't like explain so much that I was, disappointed by it, like you seem to be. I would say it did make me want to play the game and the episode Ardyn part of the game, because I want to see like how it expands on that, like how it continues onward. And also, is this thing going to be included in the thing, or is this only supplemental material? Like, you just have to watch this on YouTube and then play episode Ardyn?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't know. But either way, I thought it was fine. And as a commercial, it totally worked for me.
Yeah.
Which it was a commercial twice. I would say 3 times. It's a commercial right at the beginning for like 30 seconds. And it tells you, hey, go out and buy episode Ardyn. And then episode Ardyn Prologue happens. It's like 8 to 10 minutes long in the middle of it. And then at the end, it's another commercial for, hey, go play episode Ardyn.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
as a commercial, I thought it was pretty good. It's not as good as the the 4 episodes of Final Fantasy 15 stuff that we saw before.
The Brotherhood. Yeah.
Yeah, the Brotherhood thing that kind of like expanded the characters and stuff like that. It's not on that level, certainly, but that was pretty cool and dramatic, and I don't know, I enjoyed myself. I didn't think about it so much as like it changing his character or the betrayal or like what all that would mean, but it has also been since we played FF15 that I have thought about this stuff at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a revisit of FF15 with this stuff in mind. I wonder how it would change my view of 15.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. I didn't hate it necessarily, but it's like I said before, it just kind of it takes like what was once a tragic character, and like he has tragedy. He loses the a woman he cares about right in front of him to this guy, and it's due to this betrayal, and the gods cast him out, and everyone has cast him out, and the one person he cared for, is dead now, and I can see that, like, that adds to the tragedy, but, like, the whole premise of him becoming evil, and, like, that's eventually what happens to him. Like, over time, he just becomes more and more hateful and spiteful, and he's, like, gathering more of this darkness, and then he becomes full Ardyn for Final Fantasy 15, and that's, like, it kind of takes away from that a little bit. It is tragic that he got it from being, a good guy and genuinely trying to help people, and knowing that it was going to be something that, that took him over. It's similar to the Warrior and the Diablo universe. He sort of, like, absorbs the stone and says he can...
Diablo!
He'll like, keep Diablo at bay, but then in Diablo 2, he totally, like, fucks off and is like, I can't do it anymore. I'm gonna go become Diablo. Like, come and kill me, And that's kind of what happens. So it's got some redeeming qualities for sure, but it almost seems like there should have been. I wish there was more. Like, more. We could see more of, like, the difference between these two characters. Because really, it just sort of painted Ardyn as, like, the only good one. And then, like, why did the gods choose the other guy? He seemed like a fucking asshole,
I don't know.
Like,
well, the gods in FF15 are assholes.
Yeah, that's true. They are dickhole. I mean, like, look what they did to Nyx. They're like, yeah, we'll grant you our power, but we're gonna turn your ass to stone when the sun rises. It's like, fuck, well, that's a terrible deal, but all right, I'll do it, I guess, and then they grant it to Nyx, but they don't give it to Noctis and his fucking buddy, or Noctis's best friends, and, like, God, they're just, I guess they are little shits, kind of all around, but, yeah, I don't know, I do think, I do want to play Episode Ardyn more because of the anime, and because of the, seeing a little bit of the gameplay, and I'm just genuinely curious to see where they go with his character, because I still think he's one of the best Final Fantasy villains in the entire series, because he is interesting and because he has that backstory of him trying to do the right thing and it sort of backfiring on him, and then him losing it all, and all of the things that he did before that they just kind of didn't matter anymore, because it was all for nothing, because he wasn't able to protect the ones he cared about most. So I'm excited to play it, but kind of lukewarm on the anime itself, which is unfortunate, because I was really stoked to see what they would do with this little piece of entertainment here, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's a really short little thing, though. Yeah. Fuck.
It's on the Final Fantasy 15 YouTube channel.
Yeah, guys, go check it out if you haven't already. If you haven't, you shouldn't be listening to this episode.
I really, see, now I am. I'm gonna have to like get the Royal Edition of 15 and get all the DLCs and then replay the game and see if it fixes it all. Like, I want to see if the game is like, because we played it like straight up right when it came out.
Yeah.
So I want to see like how much the changes affect the entire experience of the game later. Also, could you play the original version? I guess if you had the original 15, uninstalled the game, reinstalled it with no updates, I guess you could play the original one, right?
I think so, yeah. You should be able to.
That's what it would take. Interesting. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I got a question here on Twitter. If you have any others, I don't know if you do.
I don't think so.
We got a wonderful 2-star iTunes review in Australia
A 2-star?
I think it was in Australia. It was either Australia or the UK. So we got that as well. But this one is from Angry Ass Black Dude. I don't remember answering this question. This is why I'm using this one. It says, I have 2 questions. Now that you've played so many FFs, what would you say is the definitive game in the series? And some people say turn-based JRPGs are outdated. Agree or disagree? Did we answer these?
No, I don't think so.
These are pretty good questions. All right. So now that you've played so many FFs, what would you say is the definitive game in the series?
Oh, man. The definitive Final Fantasy. I mean, I think it's easily Final Fantasy VII. It's the game that changed, it changed the RPG landscape. It changed everything that Final Fantasy was and will be for years to come. We're still obsessed over Final Fantasy VII. I mean, people want the Final Fantasy VII remake so badly. Like, none of that has died down. I would say it's probably... and it's a good sort of culmination of a lot of the stuff that came before and foreshadowing for what comes in the future for the series itself. It's got great gameplay, an amazing soundtrack, an incredibly well-written and well played out cast. I think the narrative is really strong in 7. I would say that's probably the definitive one, and I know that's like the canned answer, like everybody's answer, but I don't think you can... I think you'd be hard-pressed to argue against it. I mean, it is such a big thing. It's such a big game for a reason. It's not my favorite necessarily, but I think it is the one that is like what defines Final Fantasy the most. But.
See, now I'm wondering where the series continues on from, because 6 was like the culmination of all the games before 6. And so, like, for the old school Final Fantasy, 6 would be the ultimate Final Fantasy game, I think. But then 7 changed the paradigm so much, and then 10 changed it further. And then the online games changed it further. It's hard to say what one's definitive. Certainly the most famous one is 7. And probably the most, I think, a general consensus. I think the least, like the game, like the flawless game is 6. Or nearly flawless game. So 6 I would call like, not me necessarily, but like publications like Game Informer and stuff.
Yeah.
Call 6, one of the top greatest games of all time. And 7's usually close up there as well. But as far as like,
I mean, it's hard because Final Fantasy is so many different things. Like it's Final Fantasy 1 versus Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns. Like, those are completely different games. Like, they're so different. So it's hard to really pin down what is the definitive Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy is so many different things. We have RTSs, we have third-person shooters from hell, we have Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 10. It's what one defines the series the most. That's almost an impossible question to answer, don't you think?
Almost. But here's what I would say. You got a big cast of characters. You got state-of-the-art graphics for whatever time that it came out. Replayability. People still explore the game and discuss it, find secrets about it. And both was the thing that the entire series led up to, as well as the thing that everything looks back to as a quality marker. It's got to be 6 or 7. It's got to be one of those two. Part of me wants to say 6 because 6's graphics don't age as badly.
Yeah.
7's do. But then again, 7's the 3D one, and that's where the series went after that. So
yeah, I don't know. And 10, you got a good point. They all kind of change it up. Honestly, the one that's probably the most definitive would be 14. I mean, because it's got so many fucking things from the rest of the series that it's, it kind of captures a lot of those things pretty well, I would say. I'm never going to choose something like Revenant Wings or anything like that to be the definitive game. Like, there's some definite no's out there, but there are a lot of games in there that...
Yeah, like you could say 9. 9 is like the middle ground on all of them. So
yeah.
All the old school ones, the new school ones to some extent. Like 9 is the middle ground one. While also being a great game. Then the one that like changed the series and it hasn't looked back is number 4.
Yeah, the way they made 4 with the story and the characters and the gameplay, like they really refined everything they had before Final Fantasy IV, and it's all kind of been there. It's like they built the foundation with FF4, and they've built everything else on top of that.
So, I think 4 is the one that defined what the series is. I think 6 is the greatest game in the series. Like capital G, great, kind of like Citizen Kane is great. You don't argue whether or not your opinion is of that game. It's just like, it's just that game. And that 7 is the biggest one. 10 is the second biggest one with voice acting, and kind of brought it into the next stage of 3D games. I don't think anything past 10 defines the series. Like, redefines it at all. I think 15 slowly builds on what 13 and 12 put together.
Yeah.
So,
I think after 12, it's mostly reactionary, and like overcorrecting the series, because like you got 11, which is MMO-y, 12, which is MMO-esque. I mean, 11 is an MMO, 12 is MMO-esque. 13 is like a overcorrection to the wide open expanse of 12. 14 is another MMO, but 15 is like wide open again in response to 13's like downfall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not really definitive beyond that.
I would say fan backlash. I would never call that a failure.
Yeah. Fan backlash, reacting to what the general public says about your game, which is, it honestly seems more prevalent now than it was when it was just Squaresoft. And that might be, there's a million reasons why. Sakaguchi not being part of the company anymore, half of the team leaving with him when he left, tons of different things going on that could have affected that. But yeah, it just doesn't, nothing has really been definitive since then, and that was a long time ago. Final Fantasy X is like, what, 2001, 2002, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2019 now, and nothing has really defined the series since then.
No big seismic shifts.
Yeah, maybe with 15. 15 might be a big seismic shift, because 7's remake, I think, might be similar to what we got with FF15, but we don't know yet. It's still so far out that we have no idea. So 15 could be the next big shift, but I don't think they're going to do anything near that with Final Fantasy 16. So I don't know if that's even fair to say.
If Kingdom Hearts didn't exist, then 15 would seem like it was out of left field. But Kingdom Hearts does exist.
Yeah. It seems like
so.
Kingdom
It doesn't.
Hearts.
It seems like 40% Kingdom Hearts, and then the rest FF12 12 and 13. Like,
yeah,
some kind of like mad conglomeration of those three things.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because all those games are great. But and 15, I think it's a great game. But yeah, nothing, no seismic change in that. I will say, Schweiss, that to the layman, to the non-initiated into the Final Fantasy series, I say 6 is the definitive Final Fantasy game.
All right, that's fair. I can't really
only
argue
because of
against
Popeye.
Yeah.
Only because of the Popeye. If the Popeye didn't exist, if the graphics in FF7 looked like they did in FF8, well, then we might have a different conversation. But, it was what it was at the time. And it's a great game. Anyway, regardless. So you say 7, I say 6. We're good.
All right.
Angry Ass Black Dude's second question was, some people say turn-based JRPGs are outdated. Agree or disagree?
I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily that they're outdated. There are certain ways to date your system, but like for me, when I played Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, and I know they're not really turn-based, they're more strategy-based, like, they're older games, but they didn't really feel dated to me. Final Fantasy, let's see, a turn-based one, Final Fantasy X. Do you feel like 10 is outdated? Because I don't. I feel like the way they designed the game, the way they designed the battles, it flows really well into the turn-based combat, and like seeing the enemies, the moves on the side of the screen, and like being able to sort of plot and plan accordingly based on those moves and based on who's going to go at what point. I think 10 did it very well, and I don't think 10 is aged. At least as far as the battle system is concerned, I don't think it's aged at all. I think it's a great battle system. So I think some of the stuff, like the active time battle with Final Fantasy VII, kind of more of that sort of hybrid middle ground area, I think that's starting to age a little bit more, but I don't think true turn-based is really aging as much. I think the paradigm is shifting away from that, just because we're becoming more and more westernized with a lot of these JRPGs, especially Final Fantasy with 15. But I don't necessarily think it makes the turn-based outdated. I think the active time battle is probably more outdated in a way, but I mean, even then, Lightning Returns, it didn't feel outdated whatsoever. I mean, that's an active time battle game to the core. So I think it's more in the implementation of it, and just the speed of the battles and like the style of the battles. You have to sort of like play around with it and make it more like FF10, where it becomes a little bit more strategic than some of those other ones at times for those tougher battles. But I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, 15, I think, did the right thing by moving away from the turn-based. I think it did. Pretty good battle system, I think, in FF15. I had a lot of fun playing that game. I think the Comrades version is not as good, but the original version in 15 I thought was pretty good gameplay. And I think that much like the type text adventure in the RPGs of old, before Final Fantasy was there, it's just a type of gameplay that's in AAA titles is just going to be phased out. And there's always like remnants of it will exist. Like I'd say Lightning Returns is sort of like, it has remnants of active time, which has remnants of turn-based. But I don't know if like a full turn-based old school system, even the FF10 version, is going to be hip enough for younger gamers to get into on a AAA title. Now, as far as like handheld systems, where a lot of gameplay creativity is done in the marketplace, or like on a cell phone, similarly, I think that it will survive for quite a while. So I think that Final Fantasy is often like whatever. It's always like trying to be the greatest JRPG you can make. Every however many years they put out their stuff. And in that case, Final Fantasy is always trying to be ahead of the curve on graphics and on gameplay. And unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, I think we have explored fully the standard turn-based battle system and the active time battle system.
Yeah.
And it's just time for them to move on and come up with really cool, creative things. Like, obviously, they're going to be looking at the Nier Automata game for some inspiration. But that was an action RPG, and I think it's just going in that direction. So I think there's a place for it on the smaller systems. But as far as like AAA titles on the main systems, the PS3s or the Xbox Ones, and whatever those are in the next generation, I think it's, I don't know. I think it's a little bit. I think it is getting a little outdated.
Yeah,
in one way.
I suppose. I mean, regardless of whether or not it's truly becoming outdated, it's outdated for Final Fantasy. I don't think Final Fantasy, I mean, they might make 16 a more traditional Final Fantasy, but I don't think that means it's going to be turn-based battle. I think it's going to be active battle again. It's going to, because they don't really go backwards, you know what I mean? Final Fantasy, like you said, they're trying to be the front runners of the JRPG genre, and you can't do that by staying in the past. And like, as awesome as some of those games are, and like companies come out with great ones, Persona 5 is a good example of like what is an amazing turn-based RPG, and it's modern, and like everybody loves it. It has some of those modern things with the auto battler and like X, Y, and Z, and people still love it. There'll still be a home for those, but I don't know if those are necessarily the future. And Final Fantasy is trying to be the future, and they're trying to get the jump, like you said. They want to be ahead of the curve when the next big thing comes, and I don't think they're going to be going backwards, at least on a mainline Final Fantasy game. There are ways to make it more traditional while also keeping a Final Fantasy 15-esque battle system. You know, you can make it more linear with its storytelling, which 15 eventually turns into, in the best portion of 15, where it's just story chapter after story chapter. But I feel like there's always a way to kind of make a good hybrid where you have it active time battle or action based or whatever 15 is. I guess like action RPG, but you can make it in a way that really resonates with the audience, and I think 15 did a pretty good job of that, and I don't think they're going to be looking back. So it's sort of a kind of a trick question. Like, I don't necessarily think they're outdated. It's all based on how the developer implements the battle system, but I think it's outdated for FF, and that's what we're here to talk about. So I would be very surprised if they came out with another mainline game for the major consoles that was turn-based. Like you said, I can see him coming out with more like fun little offshoots or mobile games that are turn-based in their combat styles, but that's going to be the extent of it, I think. I think we're past that. And it's whether or not that's a good or a bad thing, it is a thing, and I think that's where we truly are. As far as the series goes, so.
All right. Well, we got one iTunes review that I found.
All right.
From Australia. It's 2 stars. You ready for this? It's from T Ford 14, 2 stars, titled "Oh, I Tried." I went in on the FF8 episode, and when about 20 minutes into the part 2, a random song started playing for way too long, and I finally gave up. It might get better, but the weird music and bizarre format were a big put-off for me. So yeah, there we go.
What? That's what made him quit the show?
A random song, 20 minutes. 20-minute random song. First off, it's 5 minutes long, if that. Okay? And it's not random. There's plenty of build-up to it. A guy comes into a room and introduces the song. Then has it play. Whatever. Anyway.
Hey, that's a great song. Don't know what else to say. That's too bad. If you have the attention span of a squirrel, fucking go to YouTube. Don't go to a podcast. That's not what this is for. But that's fine. That's fine. I see ones like that, like where it's just they just couldn't get into it for one reason or another. Like it's totally unfair, but it is what it is. There's no real learning from us because we're not going to change that. We haven't changed that, and fuck you guys. If you don't like the fucking cover songs, you can go fuck yourselves. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's what this is about. This is about cover songs. It was never about Final Fantasy. It was about finding a way to make fun fucking cover songs of shitty songs and making them awesome. And we did a 5-year podcast to do 5 of those.
That's true.
And that's it. And then that's why we're here. So there you go.
All right, well, I think that's going to be it for today's episode. Guys, you can tweet me at Joseph DeGillier.
You can tweet me at UFF Podcast.
Our website is ultimatefinalfantasy.com. Join the forums. Please ask us questions. You can ask us questions there, or you can use the hashtag UFFQ on Twitter if you want. You can check out our other shows. I just recorded a podcast for the Godzilla podcast, so get excited for Rebirth of Mothra, which is not a good movie. Not a good movie at all. And Schweiss, what are your shows?
A Song of Schweiss and Johnson. For Few Chickens More, we just barely did episodes 6 and 7, I believe, of Season 4, which is the ultimate season of Game of Thrones. So we're in a great place for that show. So you can go on over there, check that out. Nude Clan, a video game podcast where we do weekly video game discussions, a lot of off-topic banter, a lot of hanging out. That's a really great show. And, of course, a couple of the hosts on the network have a Dragon Quest podcast. It's sort of a companion show to this. It's called Puff Puff Hour, a Dragon Quest podcast. So if you guys are into Dragon Quest, go check that out as well.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. We will see you guys next week.
Until then, enjoy the Dissidia grind.